poem we're about to share is, I think, one that has been especially meaningful for Unitarian Universalists. One reason, perhaps, because it's in the back of our hymnal. There are 3 Mary Oliver poems in the gray hymnal in the back, and this is, I think, perhaps the best known. It's Wild Geese, and again, read by Mary Oliver.
Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
I think it was about a dozen years ago or so that I had the privilege of hearing Mary Oliver read Wild Geese in person at the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association. She was delivering our very prestigious Ware lecture that year. Never heard a Ware lecture quite like it. It was pretty much a poetry reading. Ware lecture is oftentimes a very inspiring kind of call to social justice, but it was pretty special. And I also, of course, had become familiar with Wild Geese by reading it in the back of our hymnal. But there's nothing like, as you just experienced, hearing Mary Oliver share that poem, or any of her poems for that matter. I'm not sure what it is about Wild Geese or about Mary Oliver's poetry in general that keeps calling to me, that keeps calling to so many Unitarian Universalists. For the last, I really don't know how many years it is, 40, 50, maybe more, her poems have been read and reread at Unitarian Universalist worship services, at covenant groups and other spiritual gatherings, as opening and closing words at board meetings or other committee meetings, and well, just about anywhere you use gather. Now, as you've already heard this morning, Mary Oliver's poems return again and again to the awe-inspiring beauty of nature, which I know resonates with many, most in our faith tradition and in this congregation. But I think there's something else about her poems and the vision of life and existence that they convey. Something that touches and speaks to the heart and soul of Unitarian Universalism, and that has led many of us to assume that Mary Oliver herself must have been a UU. She wasn't. She was an Episcopalian. And to consider her kind of the poet laureate of Unitarian Universalism. I've certainly referred to her that way many times, but we don't have such a title, but whatever. Now, before I say a little more about Mary Oliver's resonance with Unitarian Universalism, I want to thank those of you who shared their favorite Mary Oliver poems this week. Wild Geese was one of those poems, The Summer Day and Praying, which Tori read a few minutes ago. So what is it about Mary Oliver's work that touches so many in our tradition? Needless to say, if we took a survey, we'd probably get quite an array of different answers. That's pretty much true of all surveys in Unitarian Universalism. But from my conversations with UUs over the years and from my own reading of her wonderful poems, I think much of her UU appeal can be found in Wild Geese. Think for a moment about its opening lines. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Every time I read those lines, I think to myself, what an amazing, almost perfect vision in only 3 short lines of what it means to be human. You don't have to be someone you're not or live up to the expectations, demands, or judgments of others. Being fully alive, being fully human, simply means letting the soft animal of your body, of your being, of your soul, love what it loves. As she says near the end of Wild Geese, whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, announcing your place in the family of things. And if we are able to let go of what is not us, if we are able to take off the masks that we are so often compelled to wear, what we discover is a world that calls to us over and over again with its beauty and its blessings. A world that enables us to start our days in happiness and in kindness. The necessity of simply being ourselves and living lives of authenticity that so many of Mary Oliver's poems lift up remind me of the work of another writer and poet who is beloved in our faith, Ralph Waldo Emerson. So many of Emerson's essays invite us to let go of the conformity and the dogmas we are expected to accept, and instead to live lives of genuine authenticity, lives in which we continually question and experience things for ourselves, rather than blindly accepting the dogmas and doctrines of old. I'm sure it probably won't come as a surprise to you that Mary Oliver greatly admired Emerson, and she wrote a wonderful introduction to a volume of Emerson's writing, which I happen to own, in which she celebrates his unwillingness to offer narrow or absolute answers, but instead to open doors of awareness and attentiveness so that we might look at things for ourselves. I can't think of a better characterization, not only of Emerson's work, but of Mary Oliver's as well. And that unwillingness to offer narrow or absolute answers, but instead to invite us to seek and search for ourselves, leads to another characteristic of Mary Oliver's poetic vision that is especially meaningful for me and that has had a powerful influence on my understanding of theology, religion, life, myself. So if you'll allow me, I'd like to share a remarkable poem with you called What Is There Beyond Knowing? This is by Mary Oliver. What is there beyond knowing that keeps calling to me? I can't turn in any direction, but it's there. I don't mean the leaves' grip and shine, or even the thrush's silk song, but the far-off fires, for example, of the stars, heaven's slowly turning theater of light, or the wind, playful with its breath, or time that's always rushing forward, or standing still in the same, what shall I say, moment? What I know, I could put into a pack as if it were bread and cheese and carry it on one shoulder. Important and honorable, but oh so small. While everything else continues, unexplained and unexplainable. How wonderful it is to follow a thought quietly to its logical end. I have done this a few times, but mostly I just stand in the dark field in the middle of the world, breathing in and out. Life so far doesn't have any other name but breath and light, wind and rain. If there's a temple, I haven't found it yet. I simply go on drifting in the heaven of the grass and the weeds. What is there beyond knowing by Mary Oliver? Now, I could go on and on about why this poem means so much to me, about why it, more than anything I've ever read, and certainly way better than anything I've ever written, describes my theology, my understanding of divine mystery, and really my spiritual journey. So much of life and so much of the world remains unexplained and unexplainable. And what I truly know would undoubtedly fit in something way smaller than Mary Oliver's knapsack. But as she so beautifully reminds me, it's okay not to have all the answers or even any answers. It's okay to search and to seek, to wander and to drift. And it's heavenly just to sit in a dark field in the weeds and the grass, experiencing beauty, peace, and serenity. And that, friends, is why Mary Oliver will always touch my life and my spirit, and why I think she offers Unitarian Universalism such a compelling vision of what it means to be human and, yes, to be whole. Life isn't about having all the answers to the mysteries of existence. Life isn't about living up to or conforming to the judgments and expectations of others, of society, or of religion. Life, Mary Oliver teaches us, is about listening and experiencing, breathing and savoring, wandering and, yes, drifting. And in those moments, when a glimmer of truth, when a small speck of meaning shines brightly in the awe-inspiring mystery, Mary Oliver reminds us to slow down, to listen, and then perhaps to patch a few words together so that we can open a doorway into thanks and into a silence in which another voice can speak. We are so blessed that Mary Oliver spent much of her life patching those words together and opening so many doorways into gratitude and beauty, awe and wonder, peace and love. Thank you so much for listening. And a reminder that if you'd like to talk a little bit more about Mary Oliver, please join me in the parlor around 12:30. Amen.